Spread out over 13 acres, Windsor is the largest inhabited castle in the world. It is a palace filled with great treasures and the odd mystery.
Got me torch, yes. Found it in the back of the locker in my office. I'm sure if she sees this now, she'll probably want it back.
Windsor's cathedral-sized chapel is at the forefront of royal family life and is home to clergy with pressing modern demands.
I don't like the image of St George's at all.
Just as remarkable as the castle is the Great Park itself. Miles of idyllic public countryside wedged between the River Thames, London's suburbs, 3 motorways and the world's busiest airport.
The famous story, of course, is that American tourists was heard to say, well, why did they build the castle so close to London Airport?
Both house and garden have to pay their way in an unforgiving world. The castle depends on visitors to maintain its art. The chapel must fund itself as well.
The cost estimate is £404,000.
The estate also has to make ends meet.
Any good, are they?
Beautiful, absolutely excellent.
Organic.
It's a vast stage, too, for favourite family events. And a playground for everyone.
Look at this. This is England. This is fantastic. You couldn't buy this in a million years.
The person in charge of this, by tradition, is the ranger of the Great Park. The present one has held this position for more than 50 years, longer than anyone in history. But the Duke of Edinburgh has never previously given an interview while on his rounds.
He's taking yet another picture of me getting out of the car. And absolutely persistently every time.
Like every ranger, he knows it's his duty to hand it on in good shape to the next generation. Windsor stretches far beyond the castle walls.
Friends had some of these parakeets or budgerigars, as we thought we'd got some of those, and then I thought it'd be rather fun to have some doves floating about. So, the trouble is they get nicked by sparrowhawks and things, but on the whole their breeding seems to keep up.
Within weeks of becoming monarch in 1952, the Queen appointed the Duke of Edinburgh to the position of Ranger of the Great Park. He must make sure that this ancient estate is run efficiently. The greenhouse production has recently been reduced.
The difficulty is that we're either here by ourselves or we've got 100 people living in the place. You know, if you've got a greenhouse, you need to have a sort of constant production. It's much more expensive growing our own stuff and getting it from Tesco or whatever it is.
He has not surrendered to the big guns of retail, though. He's recently opened Windsor's very own farm shop.
So you go into the farm shop there.
You want to do that?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
We'll try and get there, but I don't know whether we can. This is quite funny. This pub here is now called the British Raj, I think, isn't it? Oh, no, it's still got Lord Nelson. No, it's the British Raj. It used to be called the Lord Nelson. It's now called the British Raj. Lovely idea. One of the advantages of the shop is that it's got this entrance and exit here. You can see there's quite a lot of people using it.
The Windsor Farm Shop sells stock from all the royal estates. Great Park venison, Sandringham potatoes, Duchy of Cornwall biscuits.
Is he going to stop? Oh, all right. But most of this stuff comes either from the Crown Estate or from local producers. Morning. Any good, are they?
Beautiful, absolutely excellent.
Organic, surely, is
Yes,
it?
yes they are.
Would be.
Very tasty.
All the butchering is done in the back there, or right here in front of everybody. And the majority of this comes from off the estate, but a lot of it comes from other local producers. So I think we're going to sort of clog up the system if we stay in here much longer. Do you think? Morning. Morning.
The public are about to arrive at the castle too. Castle Superintendent Major Alan Denman begins his daily patrol.
Very fond of it. It's obviously over 1,000 years old. Is it 1,000 years? And something's got to be taken care of. Oh, they're just coming through, right? Even though I've been here a year, there's still parts of the castle I've not been into. And Jimmy the foreman often takes me round and often gets me lost. And I've found lift shafts I've never seen before, towers I've never seen before. So you learn something about it every day.
Tourism is crucial to Windsor. 1 million visitors bring in £8.5 million each year. The money supports the Royal Collection's national treasures, and the rest helps repay the castle's £4 million maintenance bill.
Very good morning. Welcome to Windsor Castle. My name's Peter.
My name is Penny.
Welcome to Windsor Castle.
Welcome to Windsor Castle. Enjoy it.
It's an alluring mix, a royal home and 1,000 years of history.
William the Conqueror built Windsor Castle, defeated the English in 1066 in the Battle of Hastings.
Now, the Queen spends lots and lots of time here at Windsor. She's looking very royal, isn't she, in this picture? Yes,
Have you ever met the Queen?
Yes, I have met the Queen, actually. A lot of people want to know, have I met the Queen? Several children have asked if I am the Queen.
At the lower end of the castle sits St George's Chapel, a Gothic masterpiece, where the royal family have worshipped since medieval times. Monarchs are buried here. The Prince of Wales had his marriage blessed here, but it's also a local church which holds at least 3 public services a day. It supports its own clergy as well as St George's House, a centre for interfaith discussions behind closed doors. St George's always does its own thing.
St George's Chapel is what is known as a royal peculiar, which means that we are not within a Church of England diocese. We have only one boss, and that is the Queen.
St George's Chapel is entirely self-funding. The Dean and his canons are starting some very expensive maintenance work.
At this stage, the cost estimate is £404,000, which is 13 down on the original projection. There are no floorboards to look under where we might discover terrible things, so there's a hope that we might keep fairly on target.
To survive, the chapel must rely on a slice of ticket money, donations, and the chapel shop. But the shop hasn't been performing. It's too small. It's in the wrong place, and it has the wrong products. So Canon John White and Chapter Clerk Charlotte Manley have been appointed to supervise the launch of a new shop. They start by hiring a shop manager with some modern ideas.
For a long time there's been a wish that we do something to redevelop the shop and really move that on into the 21st century. And this is just a beautiful location as people exit the chapel, where we can have new fixturing, state-of-the-art merchandise and till systems, but also a much more accessible area for our visitors.
Even in a medieval cloister, the latest marketing techniques are required. The Chapel Shop Committee have asked branding expert David Clare to design a new identity. St George's needs a logo.
The title, really, of this presentation is creating a retail identity for St George's Chapel. An identity is being formed in the way that the shop is coming together physically, but we also need to develop a brand identity that works effectively, supporting the chapel and also representing the product.
David thinks he has just the answer, an image of St George which is seen on the front of the altar. But will it meet the demanding standards of Canon White?
The St George from the tapestry is actually a very, very beautiful tapestry. It's very nicely rendered, and it's a very, very attractive image of St George. So the principle here...
Quite so much like St Joan.
Right.
It's quite a feminine...
It is a very feminine St George.
Feminine St George. It does, and I think the more it becomes simplified, the more feminine it becomes. I mean, that's... Yeah, go on.
Well, the face, I think, becomes more and more feminine on the simplified side. I think also it picks out on the features more and more as it becomes more simplified.
Can I start with a few straight questions?
Yes, do.
What are the pros and cons of the St Joan, St George issue? Try to confuse them with an image that is...
Yes, I think I'm going to be blunt and say I don't like the image.
Right.
The St George image at all.
Okay.
I think it gives quite the wrong kind of feel. I think it's androgynous, and uncertain and a bit effete. And it has, as far as I'm concerned, all the kind of soppy romanticism that I don't think we ought to be showing. So the answer is no on St George.
I think we would certainly be happy with St George, but not
St George.
that particular one.
Canon White leads the search party round the chapel to find a more virile St George.
I think there isn't a St George on this window, except...
Yes, there is.
Except he's kneeling somewhere, is he?
In the centre?
Oh, in the centre?
No, he's not. That's St Michael the Archangel. He has wings, so he's St Michael the Archangel.
So he does.
Right.
I beg his pardon.
Okay.
It's fun, but it wouldn't work for this.
But I mean, you could actually see...
No, I think it's the second pleatro, yes.
Right idea, wrong colour. They widen the search around the castle. At last, tucked away in the chapel archives, they all find what they've been looking for. A tougher, stronger, more masculine St George.
Yeah, no, very good.
I just think it's got...
The Duke is always full of ideas for the park, even if some schemes have proved a little too ambitious.
That great tank there is the remains of an attempt to have a biogas plant. We thought we'd try and put all the manure in from these two farms, and then it went through a digester, and it comes out as sort of fertilizer and produces some gas as well. Unfortunately, while they were doing something to it, the digester blew up, so we had to get rid of it. It's quite difficult to get it right.
He shares his love of innovation with a previous ranger, also married to a queen, Albert, Victoria's Prince Consort.
This is a Prince Consort's farm and was designed by him, and is a dairy farm. We got about 200 Jersey cattle in here. And the Shaw Farm is the one further up, which is Ayrshire cattle.
At Shaw Farm, Adrian Tomlinson looks after the Queen's Ayrshire herd.
Something I'm very proud of doing is breeding pedigree cattle for Her Majesty the Queen, and hopefully I'm doing a good job of it. I'd been here probably about 6 months before I first met the Queen. I was taking the cows back to the field after I'd milked them, and the Queen pulled up in a car and sort of said hello and etc. And I was very aware that I should have perhaps changed my overalls that morning and hadn't done, and what a state I was in.
Adrian's arch rival is Andrew Buckland. He runs the other royal herd, the prize-winning Jerseys at Prince Consort's farm.
Her name is Good News. She was a supreme champion at the Royal Forest Show last year, and we're taking her again this year. It's a fairly fitting name, we think. We hope. Might be bad news after tomorrow. I think she's as good as she was last year. I mean, Adrian's got some very good cows I've seen up there, but I would hope that she does well, hopefully as well as last year.
Andrew is the reigning champion in these parts. But as Windsor's big agricultural show approaches, Adrian and his Ayrshires are determined to steal the crown off the Jerseys. He wants his cows to be the Queen's top herd. The Windsor Castle labyrinth extends far below the surface. Castle Superintendent Major Alan Denman is still finding his way around.
We're going to the Fendersmiths. I do like to get around the castle and have a look at various parts of the castle. And there's a tunnel underneath the Fendersmiths room. So we're going to have a quick look down there. I've had a look around the boiler room. And even though I've been here just over a year, there's probably about 25% of the rooms and places I haven't been into. So I do like to have a little wander now and again. Got my torch, yes. I found it in the back of the locker in my office. And you can see it's got Her Majesty the Queen on. But I'm sure if she sees this now, she'll probably want it back. Right, here we are in the hub. The operations room, the Fender Smiths.
Tell us about this sign on your door here.
I think it was one of the policemen having a bit of a laugh on his computer. It's a laugh, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't wear such a big nappy as the boy there, but yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Right, let's have a look at this tunnel. All right, Neil? We're not quite sure what this tunnel was used for, but we believe it might have been used for an air raid shelter in the Second World War.
But you can imagine what it would have been like digging it out.
Yeah.
Can't you?
Yeah.
There are many tunnels here. No one is entirely sure when or why this one was originally built, but it's probably medieval. Back then, the castle's occupants always needed a way out during a siege.
Yeah, quite nice. We could have Windsor spring water, we make a fortune. This is where the Fender Smiths keep their wages.
Yeah. That's why there's 2 strong rooms rather than 1.
Did you enjoy that, Alan?
Yeah, it's another part of the castle I haven't seen, and it's very interesting. There we are.
And you wouldn't know anybody who's been down there apart from the 4,000 footprints that are on our carpet now.
For now, it's business as usual for Gary and Neil, the castle Fender Smiths.
The fender is a piece basically in front of the fireplace, and it protects any sort of rugs, carpets from coal or spitting embers that sometimes fly out of the fire. There are probably 300 or 400 fireplaces in Windsor Castle, but on a regular basis we're only looking for the ones that the royal family themselves use. This weighs probably about 8 stone in old money. There aren't too many of us left doing exactly this, so it's a job that we're quite proud of down here. My cousin used to be a cabinet maker. His son was in one of the pantries for a while. My dad did my job before me. His mum was in the turkey farm down on the park, so yeah, we're sort of 3rd generation here. So it's a long old tradition for me.
Once the royal family are in residence, it's always time for the Fender Smiths to smarten up.
9 times out of 10 we try to get in and out without seeing anybody, but there are times when you do bump into guests and members of the royal family, so hence the livery goes on.
Gary was in charge of lighting fires at the time of the 1992 fire, but he has a clear conscience.
We know the big one wasn't anything to do with us. Our fires are fairly regulated. That was one of the days when we would have lit a fire for Her Majesty. So, needless to say, I said to her page at the time, I don't think we'll be lighting a fire today, as unfortunately the castle was burning. It's not a bad one, is it?
How does Father Christmas get in Windsor Castle this time of year then?
Father Christmas will come down one of our chimneys if he's got a pass. Father Christmas isn't, I don't think, on the computer at the moment.
The Ranger arrives at an old airfield in a far corner of Windsor Great Park. This was a base during the Second World War, and later on, the Duke had flying lessons here. After the planes left, he came up with another of his plans.
Thought it might be an idea to start a polo club here somewhere, and we hit on this place. And then we got the head groundsman of Eton College to advise us on how to convert this sort of heath into a playing field. It's certainly quite popular. But now the standards are so phenomenal, they're even suggesting that this isn't flat enough. I'm not quite sure what they mean by it.
In his day, the Duke was a leading polo player, and Smith's Lawn is now one of the most famous polo arenas in the world.
And when there's a polo tournament going on here, and there's the Windsor Park Equestrian Club going on here on one weekend, there's probably 1,000 horses on Smith's Lawn.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Today, the Ranger's grandson is keeping up the family tradition.
Welcome to the marvellous polo match we have here for you this morning.
They're already pouring onto Smith's Lawn for the greatest event in the British polo calendar, Cartier International Day. And Prince Harry is the star attraction in the opening game.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just a few minutes away from our first match once again, supported by France.
In the absence of his father, he's leading the Prince of Wales's team against the Hurlingham Club.
With the Prince of Wales team on the near side playing in red.
Prince Harry, number 1 in the red shirt. Players line up, in goes the ball, straight away.
As Prince Harry gets into the thick of it, the crowd of more than 20,000 are almost as excited as the commentator.
Prince Harry's side have broken through. Prince Harry's side is there. They're going out in front. Warwick comes back. Prince of Wales is going to be the next. Prince of Wales comes through with the ball. He's got a chance to put it through the goal. He's gone! No! No! It's gone wide! It's gone wide! Ooh la la!
In St George's Chapel, everything is being done to get the new cloister shop ready for the grand opening. The suitably masculine St George has finally been turned into a logo. Chapter clerk Charlotte Manley views the result.
It's the first image, and it looks good and strong, and I think that's a lot better. Thumbs up, go for it.
A new shop needs new products. Charlotte has invited a firm of retail specialists to pitch their wares.
Well, we're here to talk about product. So we've gone through the very exciting bit, talking about the plans of the shop, and really now here is where we can bring it to life for you. Gosh, where do we start? There is some fabulous, fabulous product out there. We know people like buses, they like soldiers. We also have, a fabulous pewter range. Now, cataloguing is for show you that. Oh, bags, yes. We'll be using this sort of little style of bag, but again with the little beads and the tassels. Also mugs. Let me show you a couple of mugs as well. Yes. Oh, ties as well. Really nice ties. We did talk about having some unusual product, and I get excited about unusual product.
Well, we've got St George here.
Oh yes,
There's no doubt about that
exactly.
at all.
Sandon saw that and thought,
Charlotte has been doing her homework.
in the right direction.
I agree that those are lovely, but I've also the globes and things I seem to have seen in quite a lot of other places. Or is that just sheer chance? I've
Maybe.
seen
Where have you seen
one
them?
shop in Dartmouth and Devon, one in Stockbridge in Hampshire. You are the experts in this area rather than me, and you're just floating ideas. I realise that, but it is beginning to appear in other places. But that's my only cautious remark about it. Not the product itself. It's just that it's.
Okay, well, we'll bear that in mind. And I think, I'm not quite sure what to say to that, actually.
Time to switch tack.
Oh, the chocolate. Very exciting. This chocolate is really going to be super. That's the one we were testing earlier. We might just have to break some open again, I think.
It's opening day. Cannon White is presented with the first carrier bag bearing the new logo.
I think that's much better than what we saw before. I'm very happy
I think
with
so,
that.
and I think
it works well.
As an illustration, it's worked quite well, really, developing it up from the statue
that's great.
in the centre of the
That's
cloister.
great. Don't think we'll have any trouble with animal rights people about killing dragons, you?
Hopefully not.
Okay.
Yeah, and there aren't very many dragons left to complain, are there, really?
Aren't a lot. No, that's right. That's good.
The local media have arrived, along with many friends of St George's. The Dean of Windsor gets business underway.
It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this little reception. I declare that the shop is well and truly open.
It's always a problem having a shop in a church. People have got quite strong ideas, and because of Christ driving the money changers and the sellers of doves out of the temple precincts, people have always got that at the back of their mind.
But economic realities can't be ignored.
Well, the money that we get from the shop is key. This place doesn't run on no money at all. It takes a lot of cash to fund the choir, to fund the buildings themselves, to pay salaries. And the funds that we get from the shop are very, very important to that whole game plan.
Delighted.
Really first class, absolute top standard shop.
I think if Lord Sainsbury says that we've got a decent shop, it must be a decent shop.
And your receipt. In the first month alone, takings at the new shop were up by nearly 70% on the old. Another victory for St George. It's Judgment Day in the Great Park, the Royal Forest Agricultural Show. Rival Royal Dairy farmers, Adrian Tomlinson and Andrew Buckland are about to go head-to-head with their cows.
May I warn all the competitors in the cattle classes, please? Judging will commence in about 15 minutes' time.
Adrian prepares his Ayrshires for what will be a tense beauty parade.
The judge is a hugely respected man, a man that I've got a lot of time for, like a well-known figure nationally. But he's a Jersey man, you know, he's had a Jersey herd all his life, he likes the jerseys, but he's first-class chap and a first-class judge, so hopefully the best cow will be coming first, you know.
There's not a lot that dairy legend Donald Dawes doesn't know about cows. Will he select one of the queens? And if so, which one? He's not a man to be rushed.
Mr. Dawes is judging the indebted to the Royal Farms in hosting this show once again at Windsor Great Park, a marvellous setting for a show.
All the preparations have come down to this one moment. Andrew and Adrian can only stand and hope that their cow will be the Dairy Queen.
Dairy champion.
Well done, Adrian.
Yep.
Thank you.
With the Dairy Champion trophy to stick in his cabinet, Adrian is off to celebrate. At the heart of Windsor Great Park is the York Club. It's the social hub of the estate community. Tonight, there's an added attraction, a charity ferret race.
Okay, any last bait? So are you ready? Go! Lane 2's in the lead,
I'm lane number 1 here. He's actually doing very well.
Lane 3's going backwards, but lane 4's still heading for home.
I've been around here for 15 years, but I'm the new boy compared with a lot of them up here, you know, because they've been around for 2 or 3 generations. You know.
Lane 2 was the winner.
Adrian can't win them all. Ferrets, ponies, cows, deer. Today, it's the turn of the swans on the Thames. All the young ones must be counted in an ancient ceremony known as swan-upping.
It's a great old English tradition and the sort of thing we should really try to maintain.
There's always something going on in this kingdom within a kingdom. A charity match for the Lord's Taverners and their royal 12th man.
To play the great English game in this setting is just brilliant.
Zara Phillips represents Britain at the Windsor Horse Trials, in front of the family.
They're ever so bendy. Right, look, like that, like that.
School's open day at the Crown Estate headquarters. Like the castle, the grounds have a pageantry of their own. The Queen's Castle is a spectacular treasure chest. Much of the royal collection is on display here. Room after room of great paintings, antiques, drawings, furniture, and much more.
Is that made of gold? Made of gold?
It's silver gilt, so it's silver covered in gold.
Silver covered in gold? How much would all that cost? Over $1 billion?
I think it's priceless.
No one can put a value on it all. There would be much, much more if Oliver Cromwell and his Republicans had not sold off most of the earlier royal treasures after the English Civil War. Even so, this is still one of the greatest collections in the world. It doesn't just need cleaning, it needs constant expert attention to preserve it for the future. And it must also be shared with other exhibitions, so something is always on the move. The collection is regarded as a national asset.
The paintings which have been handed down from generation to generation are, in effect, in a sort of position of trust, and the sovereign is the person who ultimately has responsibility for their well-being, in a sense, although we obviously would do all the work, so that they're preserved for, in effect, the nation.
Every painting in the Royal Collection comes back to Windsor when it requires work.
We've got a rather large Rubens, a very, very important painting from Buckingham Palace. It's horribly covered with old varnish, old repaint. It's brown. It does need a lot of work. We would never put that painting on public show in the condition it is now. People probably don't realise how much work is behind the scenes. I mean, the ideal is that you shouldn't realise. You shouldn't look at the paintings and think, gosh, they all look as if they've been cleaned recently. They should just look good.
Windsor is a merry-go-round of great art. The painting, which has just left the State Apartments, is a Windsor favourite, The Chinese Convert by Kneller. Rupert must give it a full inspection before releasing it on loan to the Victoria and Albert Museum in London.
The Royal Collection does get a lot of requests for paintings to be loaned to exhibitions, and if we can, we do oblige them with that, because it seems important that they are seen by the public, if not in the castle, or in an exhibition elsewhere.
As one masterpiece departs, another returns. Rupert and his team are reuniting Queen Anne with her husband, King James I of England.
She was the daughter of the King of Denmark. Her brother became the King of Denmark, and she married the King of England and Scotland, and then her sons were future kings. So she was a very proud, proud of her lineage.
All right, Rich. 1, 2, 3.
And so the merry-go-round of great works continues.
Can you swing around? It seems a shame not to have his queen next to him. He's been here for a long time, hasn't he? The James I. And even though it's not an exact pair, even though they weren't meant to be necessarily seen together, they're both the same artist. They're the king and queen. The dating's appropriate. You've got the next generation here with Charles, and so it's a very appropriate picture.
Ready?
Is that it? Enough?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, sound it.
The castle is not the only place to see the Royal Collection at Windsor. In the Home Park, the castle's back garden, sits an elegant 17th century mansion, once home to Queen Victoria's mother. On display are tables and chairs which have been around the world many times.
It's a kind of memorial to Britannia.
When the royal yacht was decommissioned in 1997, Prince Philip wondered what to do with all the furniture.
Well, we just had it, and I just thought it'd be a good idea if we kept it together. And the ballroom here didn't have any furniture, and I thought that if we took the dining room furniture from the yacht, it fitted almost exactly into there. And so we got the table, the main table, and the sideboards and chairs and things of that sort. And then we thought, well, we might as well put up all the china and silver in there too.
The royal family often retreat to Frogmore for privacy.
And yes, it's used quite a lot because when the Queen comes down here, takes the dogs out here, and that's why, because it's enclosed anyway, so that to keep hopefully to keep the rabbits out, but it's not very successful. It's easy enough to drive a team of horses or ponies around. It's not so easy to drive a car around. There's some odd
dog grade there.
Dog grade?
Just there.
Yes, looks like it now. They're dotted about all over the place. That's Queen Victoria's mausoleum. This is the sort of family burial plot.
Maybe we can stop here, sir, because
with what end in view?
To talk about mausoleum.
Well, the mausoleum's a mausoleum. There's not much you can say about it. It's much easier to take a picture of it. great place for crows.
Of all the Duke's projects as Ranger, he's particularly proud of creating a new deer park at Windsor.
This was originally to keep the deer from the Great Park from getting into, coming down this way. Now you have to keep the deer in. Bloody silly. That's the open. I can't see any of the deer. They're all on the left. They're down there. The trouble is, I think they wander about over here when everybody's out of the park, and then when people come in, they move off a bit. This used to be arable all through here. During the war, it was all ploughed up, but it's lousy. I mean, most of it's clay. It's almost impossible to do. And then we had cattle on it, and it was all fenced in. It wasn't profitable, and so we decided to put it back to a deer park. We brought them down from Balmoral. They've always been deer here, so at least we brought back their descendants. So that all this is now open park, which I think is a very much better arrangement than it was before.
I mean, looking at this, surely it was the right thing to bring back the deer park, because I mean, it is the most...
Well, I'm glad you agree. He's got to take me getting into the car yet again.
Perhaps the greatest challenge for the park during the Duke's era has been the increasing numbers who use it.
I think many more people use the park now, because what's happened in the last 50 years is many more people have got motor cars. They can travel further, so that a huge number of people just can drive here.
It wasn't always like this.
George IV, believe it or not, would not allow anybody into the Great Park at all, not even his household. And we're delighted to share it with them. I mean, the community shares in it. They can take their dogs for a walk and that sort of thing. And people come from all over to walk about. And good heavens, I mean, compared to most people, we're extremely fortunate to have any open space at all.
The Duke believes that the main duty of every ranger is to be a custodian for the future.
I mean, life's going to go on after me. If I can make life marginally more tolerable for people who come afterwards, or even at the time, I'd be delighted.
The next generation are equally attached to Windsor. Tonight, just weeks before his wedding, the Prince of Wales has gathered celebrities and business leaders here to support his Prince's Trust. It's hard to refuse an invitation to dinner here.
This is the first time that I've ever been to Windsor Castle. I'm trying to be polite, talk to people, but at the same time I'm looking all around me and trying to take it all in.
It's breathtaking, awe-inspiring, slightly over the top, looking at the gold here.
These guests, though, have not just come to admire the decor. They're ambassadors for a trust which has been helping disadvantaged young people for 30 years. Kenny Ross was jobless and homeless until the trust helped him build a new life. He's also a keen guitarist, and tonight he's not only having dinner at the castle, but he's made a new friend, Eric Clapton.
Things like this don't happen every day, does it? No. Bizarre, I'd say bizarre. It's unreal.
Kenny is not the only one who's a little dumbstruck by the occasion.
It's overwhelming, isn't it? It's a bit overwhelming. I'd like to be here on my own, to be honest, so I could just walk around and have a look.
Nicky Chapman has just seen the seating plan.
Well, I'm actually sitting at his table. Yes, I think I'm actually sitting rather close to him, so I'm going to have to be on my best behaviour.
But before anyone can tuck into their lemon-cured salmon, the host reminds them why they're here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't be more delighted than to welcome you all here this evening to Windsor Castle. Now, all I ever wanted to do when I started the Trust 3 decades ago was above all to make an investment in the future, pure and simple.
This cause has been close to the Prince's heart for many years. The future Duchess of Cornwall will be attending many evenings like this in the years ahead.
And believe me, there are literally thousands of young people out there who do need it. All I can say is you are quite literally saving lives. So thank you all very much indeed.
The guests don't leave without offering the Prince and his bride-to-be their best wishes.
I mean, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing. And he seems very happy. Wonderful.
I think it's marvellous news. Proclamation of love, can't go wrong.
The day has come. That love is about to be recognised formally and in front of millions around the world. Even for Windsor, scene of so many great state occasions, this will be an historic landmark. It's 142 years since a Prince of Wales was last married here.
Una Windsor grigia, fredda e nature flags and whistles.
Castle flagman Tony Martin has a somewhat larger model. It's so big that he's drafted in the Buckingham Palace flagman to help him raise it.
Here we go.
How big is this one?
38 feet by 19 feet wide. Fantastic.
Next, the ranger hopes he has done his bit.
I think to try and create a memorial to yourself while you're alive is slightly indecent, I think. I'd rather other people decided what legacy I'd left. I mean, I'm not trying to create one. Any organism needs to be kept going. The fact that it is going still after 50 years, that's not bad going, because if you hadn't done it, something worse might have occurred. William the Conqueror built his castle up here, and it's been occupied virtually ever since.
No one will ever build another Windsor. For all its history, its real strength will always lie in its people.
You know, some of my staff have been here
sort of 30 odd years, and a year is nothing.
The rest of the world come in on those tin cans to see what we've got here, tradition and history.
Very well.
We have a very good, what word shall I have, boss?
So I sit here and he sits there, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Take it in quick and get back here.
It's the nervy time now.
Marvellous.
One of the lovely things about Windsor Castle is it's alive and it's working. I can't imagine Windsor Castle any other way.